After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the meaning of materials in costing, the techniques of material control, the concept of labor turnover, the different methods for calculating labor turnover, the different methods used for wage payment, the concept and classification of overheads in costing. Now I will give a brief introduction of module. Generally, the term cost depicts the amount of expenditure incurred on or attributable to something. The term cost's interpretation depends on two things. One, nature of industry or the business, and two, context in which it is used. A business having nominal selling and distribution expenses might calculate cost without considering the selling and distribution overheads, whereas business requiring heavy selling and distribution expenses might incur heavy costs if it does not consider selling and distribution expenses. Also, different costs are calculated for different purposes. The valuation of work in progress is done at factory cost, while the valuation of finished goods is done at office cost. There are numerous examples depicting the fact that cost does not necessarily imply the same meaning under all circumstances. Thus, cost can't be exactly defined. Cost consists of three broad elements, namely material, labor, and third, overheads. First, we will consider material cost. Material is a substantial part of the cost of a product, and hence proper control is to be exercised from the time order for material is placed till it is actually consumed or sold, as the case may be. Efficient material control system leads to significant reduction in production cost. Control is essential to ensure constant supply of material. Material control is the organized control over procurement, storage, and usage of materials to maintain regular flow of materials, avoiding excessive investment in inventory. Therefore, material control includes systematic functioning of the following: 1. Purchasing of materials. 2. Receiving of materials. 3. Inspection of materials. 4. Storage of materials. 5. Issuing of materials. 6. Maintenance of inventory records. And lastly, stock audit. First is purchasing of materials. If the size of an organization permits, purchasing of materials should be handled by a separate purchasing department under the purchase manager. To establish procurement of materials at economical prices, following points should be considered. 1. Centralized purchasing. 2. Cooperation between purchasing department and other departments. 3. Close liaison between purchasing and accounts department. 4. A proper purchase procedure. 5. Good technical knowledge of the industry. Second is receiving of materials. Receiving department performs the work of unpacking and verification of goods. The contents of the packages are verified with the consignment notes sent by the suppliers. The date of receipt of order, quantity received, and the condition of the goods are entered in the consignment notes. The receiving department also performs the function of verifying the weight, count, measurement of the materials received. Third is inspection of materials. The inspection department is responsible for ensuring that the goods received are in accordance with the purchase order specifications. If necessary, samples are also sent for laboratory testing. The inspection department submits its inspection report in triplicate. One copy each is submitted to the purchasing department and the stores or production department, and one copy is retained by the inspection department for future references. Fourth is storage of materials. The storekeeper performs the function of storage of materials. His duty is to accept, identify, classify, and properly place the materials. The quantity of material to be stored can be calculated on the following basis. Maximum level. The largest quantity of a certain material to be stored in the store at any point of time. This fixation is essential to circumvent unwanted blocking up of capital in inventory, loss because of deterioration and obsolescence, etc. Maximum level is equal to reorder level plus reorder quantity minus minimum consumption multiplied by minimum reordered period. Minimum level. It is the least quantity of materials to be maintained in hand at all the times to ensure smooth functioning of the assembly line. That is, minimum level is equal to reorder level minus average rate of consumption into average time required to obtain fresh delivery. Ordering or reorder level. It is the level which determines the time for ordering of fresh supplies. It is fixed somewhere between the maximum and the minimum level. Reorder level is equal to maximum reorder period into maximum usage. Economic ordering quantity, that is EOQ. This order size gives the maximum economy while purchasing a particular material. It is also known as the optimum or standard order quantity. That is, EOQ is equal to SQRT multiplied by 2 into U into P by S, where U is equal to quantity, that is units purchased or used in a year. P is equal to cost of placing an order, and S is equal to annual cost of storage of one unit. Fifth is the issuing of materials. The storekeeper issues the material on the presentation of a duly authorized materials requisition note. The materials requisition note is a document which authorizes and records the issue of material for use. It is generally signed by the foreman, But in case of large quantity of materials, authorization by a senior officer is necessary. Sixth is the maintenance of inventory records. Generally, two sets of records are maintained for materials received, issued, or transferred by the costing office and by the storekeeper in the stores. The costing office maintains inventory records in the form of the methods, that is storage ledger, that is a separate account is opened for each kind of materials and spare parts in the store. Materials abstract, that is an analytical statement of materials issued to different jobs, is made on the basis of materials requisition slip. Then stores ledger account control, that is the postings in this account are made in totals and the balance in the account should tally with the individual balances of different accounts in the store's ledger. And purchases general, that is it is maintained to facilitate postings in the store's ledger account, giving detailed information about the quantity and the value of purchased materials. On the other hand, the storekeeper in the stores maintains records on the basis of either the bin cards or the store's material control record. Seventh is stock audit. The physical verification of stock with the inventory records is referred to as a stock audit. It is essential to check the exactness of the inventory records and to segregate the obsolete or useless materials. The physical verification of stock could be done periodically, for example, monthly, quarterly, etc., or continuously. In the continuous method of stock verification, continuous checking is done by taking different sections of the stores in rotation. Techniques of material control. The following section explains the techniques for having effective material control. The techniques are: first is ABC analysis. It is a selective approach to materials control. The items of materials are divided into three categories: A, B, and C. Category A might include most costly items. Category B might include less costly items. And category C might include the least costly items. The classification of inventories could be done on the basis of a number of factors like the nature of the items, variety of the items, special requirements of the business, etc. Generally, inventory surveys show the following trends regarding components of inventories of organizations in the field of manufacturing as shown in the following table. Category A, B, C, percentage of total value 70, 25, 5, percentage of total quantity 10, 35, 55. Thus, items of category A are given the utmost attention. In case of category B items, ordinary stores routine is observed, and in the case of category C items, even normal accounting procedure may be dispensed with. Second technique of material control is turnover ratios. To prevent unimportant investment in inventory, it is considered
good to compare turnover of materials of different grades. Stock turnover might be calculated using the following formula. That is, stock turnover is equal to cost of materials consumed during the period by average stock of materials held during the period. Third is minimum maximum plan. It is one of the oldest and the simplest method to material control. As per this plan, minimum and maximum level of materials is fixed. As the stock reaches the minimum level, new order is placed to bring the quantity of material to the maximum level. Fourth is the two bin system. Two bins of material are maintained in this system. When the materials of the first bin are exhausted, new order is placed for the first bin. In the meantime, the materials are used from the second bin. Fifth is just in time, that is JIT inventory system. This system means that inventories of raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods should be received just in time. Raw materials must be received just in time to reach the production line. The manufactured items are completed just in time to assemble, and the assembled products are ready just in time to be sent to the consumers or the customers. Labor. Now we will discuss second element of the cost of manufacturing a product, that is labor cost. Production efficiency depends upon the efficient utilization of labor force. Labor can be either direct labor or indirect labor. When the wages are allocated to different jobs or products on a convenient basis, wages are direct. While when the labor is not directly engaged in the process of product manufacturing, wages are indirect. Direct labor is charged to specific cost units directly. On the other hand, the allocation of indirect labor is difficult. Distinction between direct labor and indirect labor is important, as direct labor forms the part of prime cost of production, while indirect labor forms a part of factory overheads and is thus included in the factory cost. In a large organization, the following departments are responsible for accounting and control of labor costs. That is, personnel department, engineering and work study department, timekeeping department, paymasters department, and cost accounting department. Labor turnover. Labor turnover is the rate at which the displacement of personnel employed in an organization takes place due to resignation, retirement, and retrenchment. A higher rate of labor turnover is a sign of instability in the organization, and it hampers the efficiency and profitability of the organization. Some of the factors responsible for labor turnover are illness or accident of the employee, death or retirement of the employee, discharge of employee due to insubordination, seasonal nature of the business, storage of raw materials, power resulting in lowering of production capacity, change of location, lack of congenial and healthy atmosphere in the organization, lack of proper facilities and amenities, low wages, ill treatment to the employees. As can be observed, some of the factors responsible for labor turnover are unavoidable, while some are avoidable. The organization should try to reduce the impact of the avoidable factors by taking appropriate measures. Methods of calculating labor turnover. Labor turnover can be measured by using various methods. Once a particular method is chosen, the organization should stick to that method as it makes comparisons possible. The various methods for calculating labor turnover are: first method is separation rate method. This is the most commonly used method for computing labor turnover. As per this method, labor turnover rate is equal to number of separations in the period by average number of workers in the period multiplied by 100. Second method is replacement rate method. This method of labor turnover takes into consideration only the actual replacement of labor personnel irrespective of number of personnel leaving. As per this method, labor turnover rate is equal to number of replacements in a period by average number of workers in the period multiplied by 100. Third method is flux rate method. This method of calculating labor turnover rate takes into consideration both the number of replacements and the number of separations. As per this method, labor turnover rate is equal to number of separations plus number of replacements divided by average number of workers in the period multiplied by 100. Fourth method is equivalent annual rate of labor turnover. This method is used to relate the labor turnover rate for a month or fraction of a month to the annual rate of turnover to find out the equivalent annual rate. As per this method, equivalent annual rate is equal to turnover rate into 365 by number of days in the relevant period multiplied by 100. Methods of wage payment. Labor is an important factor of production. The efficiency of labor affects the success of a concern at large. There are various methods of wage payment. These are discussed as: first method is time wage system. Under this system of wage payment, the labor is paid according to the time for which they work. The time rate at which the payment is to be made to the workers is decided beforehand and they are paid for the hours they work. In this system of wage payment, the payment can be fixed for every hour, every day, every week, and every month, etc. A worker is also given the guarantee that he will be paid a fixed amount for a specified period of time. For example, an employee has to work for 6 hours daily in a factory and the remuneration for every hour is fixed at rupees 10. In this case, the daily wage of the employee will be 6 into 10 is equal to 60 rupees. Second method is piece wage system. Under the system of wage payment, a worker is being paid as per the output he produces during his working hours. In this case, no regard is being given to the time spent on the job. The worker is paid the remuneration for the total units manufactured or produced by him. As per this method, total earnings is equal to rate per unit into units completed. This system takes into account the amount of work done by a worker. However, if a product is not up to the mark and does not meet the quality standards, then it may be rejected. The system of piece wage may be used for providing remuneration to either to an individual or to a group of workers. For example, an employee manufactures 20 units of a product in a day and the rate fixed for each unit is rupees 15. In this case, the remuneration for the employee will be 20 into 15, which is equal to 300 rupees. Incentive plans. Under the incentive plans, the advantages of both time wage and piece wage system are combined to motivate the workers to work hard. Under the incentive plans, the workers are guaranteed minimum wages and the incentive by the way of bonus is given to the workers who save their time while performing the work assigned to them. After conducting the time studies, a standard time to perform the job is fixed, and the workers who complete their job within the standard time are rewarded with incentives. Both the employee and the workers benefit from these incentive plans. An incentive plan should be selected keeping in consideration the nature of the work and other circumstances like practicability, cost benefit ratio, evaluation of standards, etc. A good incentive plan is one which secures the goodwill of both the workers and the management. Else, it becomes difficult to apply it successfully in the organization. Now we will discuss third element of the cost of manufacturing a product, that is overhead cost. Overheads or indirect or supplementary costs are the ones which can't be directly debited in full to a particular job, as these costs are neither direct material nor direct labor. They can't be attributed to direct manufacturing costs, but they also form an important part of the overall cost of a product. These expenses may arise either inside the factory or outside the factory. Classification of overheads. The overheads can be classified as per the following basis. First is according to the nature. First is indirect material. The materials used for the auxiliary purposes of the business and which can't be assigned to specific units of the products are known as indirect material. They may be used in the factory, office, or the selling and distribution division of the business. Second is indirect labor. It is the labor which is used for carrying out incidental tasks to the manufacturing of goods or services. They aren't directly related in manufacturing the product. Indirect labor might relate to the factory, office, or selling and distribution divisions. Third is indirect expenses. These are the expenses which can't be directly or in whole allocated to the cost centers. Second is according to normality. First is the normal overheads. The unavoidable overheads which are incurred for producing a given output are called normal overheads and are included in the production costs. Second is abnormal overheads. The overheads which aren't expected to be incurred while producing a given output and charged to the costing profit and loss account are known as abnormal overheads. Third is according to controllability. First is controllable overheads. The overheads which can be controlled by taking some action are termed as controllable overheads. For example, power use in a particular department is controllable by the departmental manager. Second is uncontrollable overheads. The overheads which can't be controlled are termed as uncontrollable overheads.
According to variability. First is fixed overheads. The costs which don't get affected with a change in the output during a given period of time unless there is a substantial change in the output are known as fixed overheads. For example, rent, salaries, etc. Second is variable overheads. The costs which change in proportion with a change in the output are known as variable overheads. For example, power, etc. Third is variable overheads. Variable overheads are the costs which are partially fixed and fixed variable. The change in these costs are not in the same proportion with the change in the output. For example, depreciation may not increase in the same proportion as the factory output might. According to function. First is factory overheads. The costs incurred while producing a product before it comes out of the production facility are known as factory overheads. They consist of indirect material, for example, stationery cost of factory, etc. Indirect labor, that is overtime wages, storekeeper salaries, etc. And indirect expenses, for example, power and fuel, lighting and heating charges of the factory, etc. Second is administration overheads. The costs incurred while framing the policies, organizing and controlling the organizational activities. They are of general nature and not directly related to production, sales and distribution activities or functions of an organization. They consist of indirect materials, for example, stationery costs of office, etc. Indirect labor, salaries and allowances of legal staff, etc. And indirect expenses, for example, legal charges, bank charges, etc. Third is selling and distribution overheads. These overheads include the costs incurred for promoting the product and for making the product available to the end consumer. It also includes indirect materials, for example, catalog printing, delivery vehicles for delivering the products, etc. Indirect labor, for example, salaries of salesmen, salaries of van drivers, etc. And indirect expenses, for example, advertising, bad debts, warehouse expenses, etc. Let's summarize the discussion we have done so far. Materials is an important part of the cost of a product and hence control needs to be exercised on it. Production efficiency is dependent on labor force. A higher labor turnover rate negatively affects the efficiency of an organization. Overheads are indirect or supplementary costs.